Hi, I'm Matt Abel. Welcome to another edition of In the Green. Here we are on Martin Luther King Day anniversary in Detroit. Anti-war rally.
When there's so much going on in this country and around the world that we, as people of conscience, should be concerned about. One of those things that we should definitely be concerned about is the whole question of poverty, the whole question of who's really getting the money in American society today.
Every week.
Yeah, I did. I keep on forgetting it's already what it is.
Hi, how are you?
I don't know what his story, exactly what his story is. I know he was in prison and all kinds of stuff.
How you doing? Wait, y'all. Micro. One school, not war. I like that. Did it?
We're all here today to remember and to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he certainly was a man of extraordinary vision. No doubt Dr. King, recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, would support the Department of Peace campaign. Now, this is a bill that is currently in Congress. It's a nonpartisan bill sponsored by Dennis Kucinich, and some supporters out there, obviously. This would establish a cabinet-level department reporting directly to the President of the United States. The bill provides for peace-building policy options, both domestically and internationally. I believe Martin Luther King Jr. would support this bill because it puts into action the ideals that he believed in and worked for. Provisions of the Department of Peace bill include prevention of violence, expansion and protection of human rights, funding of programs that reduce violence in our society. It promotes justice and democratic principles. What the Department of Peace bill fosters is a proactive focus on peace, implementation of preventative measures, non-military peaceful conflict resolution, research to create alternatives to war, ultimately making war unnecessary. Looking forward to. Now, this also has domestic applications. It would develop policies such as training police to handle domestic violence situations, training of school personnel to identify child abuse, detection and correction of mistreatment of the elderly. We can predict the likelihood of criminal behavior. There are studies that are in place that know how to do this, and this would be under the Department of Peace. It has been shown that economic success reduces the urge for violence. Training decreases prison violence and recidivism rates. Now, internationally, the Department of Peace would gather research, analyze foreign policy, address the root causes of fear and of war, provide the president with non-violent alternatives to war. It would intervene before violence begins, improve national security, and as I think we've all seen, terrorism really goes beyond diplomacy. What we need to do is look at the cause and effect, and this is something that Department of Peace bill would do. Of course, it's also involved with the protection of human rights worldwide as well as domestically, and the prevention and de-escalation of unarmed and armed international conflict. Now, Martin Luther King said that a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death.
Fired up! Oh, we're fired up! We're fired up! We're fired up! Oh, we're fired up! What do we want? Peace! When do we want it now? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? And when do we want it?
You want to come on up, sister? This is newly elected Councilwoman Joanne Watson. She was elected by the people. She's there as a result of a people's mandate. Let's have a warm welcome for our Councilwoman Joanne Watson.
Praise, he's worthy to be praised. What a wonderful day it is. Even cold as it is, we are warmed by the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to congratulate one and all who are part of the march, who are part of this rally, those who understand that this is a holiday, which means it's a holy day, huh? And it was not easy to get federal holiday, a holy day to honor and commemorate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So shame on anybody who's not honoring Dr. King, because most folk have the day off. And anybody who's spending this day off, not honoring King, is OFF off, huh? We want to take a moment to say on behalf of the Detroit City Council what an honor it is to be here in this historic church. This church always stands on the side of righteousness. We should note that the Dr. King's march down Woodward enveloped and embraced this church, so we're on sacred ground right now with the peace movement, the social activists, those who've been fighting for dignity and freedom. As we march and rally and pray and engage in the spirit of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, we must also remember that he wasn't just a dreamer, he was an activist, he was a fighter. He put his life on the line for us over and over and over again. What are we doing today? What are we doing to demand and fight for housing? As an example, you should know that on February 18th at Door City Council building, the Honorable Coleman Alexander Young Municipal Center, 13th floor at 6 o'clock, a councilwoman you know well is fighting for turning over all the houses owned by the city into the hands of people who need housing.
Right on, sister.
At 6 o'clock. It's an evening hearing on purpose so you can come. It's at 6 o'clock on purpose so you don't have to pay the low-down meters that overcharge you downtown. It's on 6 o'clock to encourage the masses to come and take a stand because it's your city.
Let's do it.
Which means they're your houses. And it is a sin and a shame for the city of Detroit to own tens of thousands of houses and turning them back to the county and to the state and over to those persons who are robber barons instead of putting it in the hands of people who need housing. And all of this is happening at the same time as the casinos are morally and fiscally stripping this community. Do you know that foreclosures are the 300% increase in Wayne County? Did you know that? 900 last year, 3,000 in 2002. 2003, from 900 to 3,000. It's a disgrace before God. We must not let evil go on in our presence with no action. Dr. King was a man of action. We ought to be acting. We ought to be acting to address the insult and the assault of Ward Connerly. Ward Connerly, how dare they wrap themselves up in a civil rights banner and claim they're doing civil rights work while countering everything Dr. King stood against. We ought not let this evil and plague come into our communities unchallenged, unchecked. But let us stand up Let us fight. Let us resist the terrorism in our own community and never forget the price that Dr. King paid. God bless you and thank you for being out here today.
Nobody turn me around, gonna keep on talking, keep on walking, walking freedom's highway.
Other speakers that are going to be coming up. We have a representative here from the Islamic community, and we want to have a warm welcome for the Imam who is here, Imam Abdullah El Alamin. Let's have a warm welcome.
And I did see evidence that if we continue to reach out, as Martin Luther King said, and love one another unconditionally. Martin Luther King said the highest form of love is when you love a person because God loves you. We call it agape. It's the highest form of love. And I saw this exercise when I was in Bethlehem and Ramallah.
right now we're going to have a representative of the Detroit Coalition Against Police Brutality. We know that Dr. Martin Luther King fought against police brutality. He was a victim of it. When he died, he was fighting for the poor in Memphis, Tennessee to end poverty. So we want to bring up Brother Ron Scott, who's here from the Detroit Coalition Against Police Brutality, to talk about what's happening here in the city of Detroit. Brother Ron, let's have a warm welcome. He's also the host of For My People that comes on every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. on Channel 50.
I have a few more affiliations with Groundwork for a Just World and so on. I want to mention that. Our Council of Elders. What else am I a member of? Okay, anyway, what I want to say is this. When we talk about police brutality, let's not look at it in the limited sense of the word. What's happening in Iraq is police brutality. What's happening in Iraq when you have individuals here who are like with the National Guard and the reserves who were told that they could get money to go to school. Instead, they're getting blown up, blowing up, killing, stealing, robbing, supporting Halliburton, as we said. They are the police. That's the police. They're police with M16s, with bunker busters. They're police with all of the weaponry that is being tested there and is being used here. And if you don't believe it, when they had the demonstration against the corporate entities down in Miami not too long ago, there were people that were beaten, that were shot, and that were basically the reflection of what we know as American fascism. Let's be for real.
That's right.
Right on. Right on.
So as we talk about reforming and transforming the police department, if the people aren't in it, it's not going to be transformed. There was a judgment and a decision made, which this week we're going to file a motion. We're going to file a motion with the National Lawyers. Anybody from the Guild here?
Yes, Tom, right there.
Hey, Tom. The National Lawyers Guild, we're going to file a motion to challenge, essentially, the denial of the opportunity of those of us in the coalition and others who have not been allowed to sit at the table. The very people who have been getting killed, brutalized, and otherwise can't sit up and say anything. So essentially, we're back where we were when Dr. King was talking. We have to take a more resolute attitude because the situation is, as Tom and I were talking in the march, the fight is coming down, and we're going to have to be ready to fight. The situation is that it's not just the war in Iraq, but it's the war on Mac. It's not just the situation that we're dealing with in Baghdad, but it's what we're dealing with on Burwood. It's a situation where I wrote an article once and I talked about the anti-war movement in this country, is that the anti-war movement has to encompass everything in this country, including what's happening on the back streets and in the prisons and the jails and in the boardrooms of this country. And I want to conclude by saying, we're not just talking about police brutality with somebody at the end of a nightstick, or at the end of mace, or at the end of tasers, which we fought to get rid of. Those things are just the symptoms, because in effect, what we're dealing with is that the real brutality is corporate brutality. Because when we look at Paul Hilligans, when we look at Richard Blouse, who want to take over the school district, who want to get you and me out of the city, who want to take over this whole city and think that they're the only ones that should get milk for their babies, that is police brutality. Because they use the police to get rid of the people at the 24-hour walk-in center, to get rid of the people walking down the street, to get rid of the brothers who are down there bending on the block. That's police brutality. So police brutality is more than the gun, more than the cop, more than the nightstick. Police brutality is the very system that's oppressing us, and we have to stand up against it and get rid of it. And I'm going to tell you this. We have had some challenges over the 7 years we've been fighting. We have had some people who have come against us, who have challenged us. And I'm going to say, just like the spiritual said, ain't nobody going to turn me around. We're not afraid whether we live, die, or change. The bottom line is that we have to do what we have to do to make sure that the people have freedom.
All right, we want to have a speaker here from the Highland Park Human Rights Coalition to talk about what's going on over in Highland Park. Sister Maureen Taylor, let's have a warm welcome for her.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the things that comes always to my mind every January and every April is the fact that we do have people who are willing to die for something because they didn't stand for everything. And you know, the Highland Park Human Rights Coalition is made up of a number of individuals and organizations. Some of the representatives are here today. Most folks know that I'm a member of the Michigan Welfare Rights Organization. And I can say to you that it is all, that's right, welfare rights always deserve an applause, that's right, all the time. But I can say to you that it's a shameful thing, and it's an outrage, the stuff that's happening in this country. And I want to start very quickly with my brief remarks by saying it walks, it quacks, it's yellow, it's got webbed feet. Now I've given you 4 pieces of information, and it's up to you to make the proper conclusion. Now so far, what we got is a nut in the presidency that made a conclusion. The nut said, look, 19 people stole some airplanes and killed innocent folk. And from that, what we should do is go and get Saddam Hussein. Everybody across the country heard the same information, and you saw the same information as we got. But the conclusion is that what we need to do is send a blank check of $87 billion someplace else while you don't have no housing. You just heard our council person talk about that. If you don't know the kind of fight she's having, and if you're one of the folks that don't have Comcast, you need to go to somebody's house and look at the fight that she's raising, because this one hell of a thing going on about the property that belongs to the citizens. But she's also fighting for the same kind of things that we're fighting for. We got folks in this city that don't have lights and gas, and folks think it's all right. We just had a guy the other night that just burned up in his house in Wyandotte using a space heater. But those are crimes of poverty and crimes of folks that don't have stuff, and we overlook it. Yeah. We got people right here in this city, right here in this state, right in this country that don't have water. Who would have figured in 2004 we fighting to keep water, and we live in the Great Lakes surrounded by water, and we got folks that don't have it. We got people, veterans, that are standing on every corner with a sign that says we'll work for food, and we're so conditioned about this, we ride right past them, going the way we're going, and we don't look at it. We got people right here in this country, right here in this state, that are trying to tell you that every African American is your friend. And everybody who's white and blue-eyed is your enemy. We got folks here that are so mixed up and confused. This is why when they see the information that is yellow, it walks, it quacks, it makes a yellow kind of a sound, and so therefore they conclude that it must be a horse. It's an amazing thing how the United States government can co-opt your corporations and tell you that the guy who's going to jail, fast style, from this mess that he's doing in Enron, him and his wife, the wife get a chance to go to jail first for 5 months, and then she go home while she take care of the children, and then he go next. And y'all look at it and say, must be a horse. I mean, we continuously come up with the wrong conclusion that what needs to happen, particularly for people of faith, is that the only thing we need to do is to treat each other the way you want to be treated yourself. That George Bush and them dope fiend nieces he got, and that John England and them 3 children of the devil and all the rest of these stuff ain't no better. Them children is just as good as your kids.
Right on,
and if they deserve to get health care, you paying for it. If they got the right to have lights and gas, you paying for it.
Right on.
If they got the right to have water and whatnot, you paying for it.
Right
and
on.
ain't none of their children going to war, yours are, then I can tell you, like my sister said, wake up. If this
a warm welcome for the Raging Grannies. Also, we want to acknowledge the presence of City Council President, Ms. Marianne Mahaffey, right over here.
The Raging Grannies are here because we believe in peace and we believe in justice. And one of our grannies was actually on the original march. And these are pictures of Granny Josie. Would you hold up your hand?
February 4th, we're going to do a State of the People address. We're going to talk more about the water situation and the governor's inactions on taking care of our water rights.
Oh,